Good morning, dear students. Welcome to the science class. Today we continue our discussion on chapter 6, that is life processes. In this chapter, you have already learned about various biological processes and the reaction taking place in organisms. We learned about what are life processes, nutrition in organisms, the autotrophic mode of nutrition and heterotrophic mode of nutrition. How do organisms obtain their nutrition? You also learned about nutrition in human beings and the human digestive system. We also learned about respiration, breakdown of glucose by various pathways, and the human respiratory system. You also learned about transportation, the transportation in human beings, the structure of human heart and bowel circulation in human beings. Today, we learn about the lymph. You know, there is another type of fluid also involved in transportation. This is called lymph or tissue fluid. Through the pores present in the walls of the capillaries, some amount of plasma, proteins, and blood cells escape into intercellular space in the tissues to form the tissue fluid or lymph. Here we can see this is the arterial flow of blood. Blood is flowing from the heart to different parts of the body. And this is a venous flow of blood. Blood is flowing from different parts of the body towards the heart. So as the blood flows into the capillaries, through the pores present in the walls of the capillaries, some amount of plasma, proteins, and blood cells escape into intercellular space in the tissues to form the interstitial fluid or lymph. And this lymph is similar to the plasma of blood, but it is colorless and contains less amount of proteins. The lymph drains into lymphatic capillaries from the intercellular spaces, which join to form large lymph vessels that finally open into larger veins. You can see some interstitial fluid returns to the blood and it becomes the part of venous flow of blood. And the lymph carries digested and absorbed fat from intestine and drains excess fluid from extracellular space back into the blood. Now let us see how the transportation occurs in plants. Plants take in simple compounds such as carbon dioxide and photosynthesize energy stored in their chlorophyll containing organs, namely leaves. The other kinds of raw materials needed for building plant bodies will also have to be taken up separately. The other kinds of raw materials means water and minerals. So these raw materials needed for building plant bodies will also have to be taken up separately. You know, for plants, the soil is the nearest and richest source of raw materials like nitrogen, phosphorus, and other minerals. The absorption of these substances, therefore, occurs through the part in contact with the soil, namely roots. If the distance between soil contacting organs and chlorophyll contacting organs are small, energy and raw materials can easily diffuse to all parts of the plant body. See, if the distances between soil contacting organs, that is roots, and the chlorophyll containing organs, that are leaves. So if the distances between soil contacting organs, roots, and these chlorophyll containing organs, leaves are small, energy and raw materials can easily diffuse to all parts of the plant body. But if these distances become large because of changes in plant body design, diffusion process will not be sufficient to provide raw materials in leaves and energy in roots. So therefore, a proper system of transportation is essential in such situations. You know, energy needs differ between different body designs. Plants do not move, and plant bodies have a large proportion of dead cells in many tissues. As a result, plants have low energy needs and can use relatively slow transport systems. The distances over which transport systems have to operate, however, can be very large in plants such as very tall trees. Plant transfer systems will move energy stores from leaves and raw materials from the roots. These two pathways are constructed as independently organized conducting tubes. That means the plant transfer system will move energy from the leaves to other parts of the plants and the raw materials from the roots towards the leaf. And these two pathways are constructed as independently organized conducting tubes. One is the xylem moves water and minerals obtained from the soil, and the other, the second one, phloem transfers products of photosynthesis from the leaves to other parts of the plants. Here you can see the xylem, the phloem, and water and minerals are obtained from the soil and it is transported to the leaves. The photosynthesis products, the food and other materials are transported from the leaves to other parts of the plant. Here you can see the xylem vessel and phloem vessel. In xylem vessel, you can see only one-way flow from roots towards leaves, whereas in phloem vessel, it is of two-way flow. Let us see how this transport of water occurs in plants. In xylem tissue, vessels and tracheids of the roots, stems and leaves are interconnected to form a continuous system of water conducting channels reaching all parts of the plant. At the roots, cells in contact with the soil actively take up ions. This creates a difference in the concentration of these ions between the root and the soil. That means at a time, the concentration of mineral ions will be more in the soil and the concentration of mineral ions less in the roots. So water moves into the roots from the soil to eliminate this difference. As a result, together with the water, these mineral ions are also transported through the roots. This means that there is a steady movement of water into root xylem, creating a column of water that is steadily pushed upwards. Here you can see this red arrow indicates the transport of water and mineral ions towards the leaves. This is xylem vessel, the one-way flow. However, this pressure by itself is unlikely to be enough to move water over the heights that we commonly see in plants. Plants use another strategy to move water in the xylem upwards to the highest points of the plant body. Provided that the plant has an adequate supply of water, the water which is lost through the stomata is replaced by water from the xylem vessels in the leaf. In fact, evaporation of water molecules from the cells of a leaf creates a suction which pulls from the xylem cells of the roots. The loss of water in the form of vapor from the aerial parts of the plant is known as transpiration. The loss of water in the form of vapor from the aerial parts of the plant is known as transpiration. Here you can see the water vapor. The water is lost in the form of water vapor. The amount of water lost in the through transpiration is obtained by the roots from the soil. Thus, transpiration helps in the absorption and upward movement of water and minerals dissolved in it from roots to the leaves. Transpiration also helps in temperature regulation. The effect of root pressure in transport of water is more important at night. During the daytime, when the stomata are open, the transpiration pool becomes the major driving force in the movement of water in the xylem. Here you can see how the transpiration is taking place. The roots take up water from the soil and water is drawn up the stem to the leaves. Veins carry water into the leaves and water evaporates from the leaves. So this is known as transpiration. Now the transfer of food and other substances. Let us consider how the products of metabolic processes, particularly photosynthesis, are moved from leaves where they are formed to other parts of the plants. This transport of soluble products of photosynthesis is called translocation and it occurs in the part of the vascular tissue known as phloem. So the translocation means the food and other substances from the leaves towards other plants parts of the plant body. So it occurs through phloem. Besides the product of photosynthesis, the phloem also transport amino acids and other substances. These substances are especially delivered to the storage organs or roots, fruits and seeds, and the growing organs. So, from the leaves, the photosynthesis products are translocated to roots, fruits, and seeds, and growing organs. Here you can see this green arrow indicates the translocation. This is a phloem vessel. So, in the phloem vessel, you can have the two-way flow. The translocation of food and other substances takes place in the sieve tubes with the help of adjacent companion cells both in upward and downward directions. Unlike transport in xylem, which can be largely explained by simple physical forces, the translocation in phloem is achieved by utilizing energy. So this is very important. Unlike transport in xylem, so which can be largely explained by simple physical forces, but the translocation in phloem is achieved by utilizing energy. Material like sucrose is transferred into phloem tissue using energy from ATP. This increases the osmotic pressure of the tissue, causing water to move into it. This pressure moves the material in the phloem to tissue which have less pressure. This allows the phloem to move material according to the plant's needs. For example, in the spring season, sugar stored in root or stem tissue would be transported to the buds which need energy to grow. Dear students, this is all for today's class. Hope you all have understood it. The next class you will learn about excretion. Till then, bye, take care.